The last episode ended with Leo taking down a group of bullies, only to find out they were followers of Riley and a guy named Mono. And Mono, my friend, wasn't just anyone. He was a level 6 student. A terrifying opponent. Kai knew there was no way they could take him on. After all, Leo was only level 5, and he hadn't copied any ability yet. He'd be forced to rely on nothing but raw physical strength if a fight broke out. Mono mocked Kai right in front of Leo, throwing around insults, especially when he mentioned the war. That word alone made Kai snap, and he lunged at him without thinking. But luck wasn't on Kai's side. Riley stepped in, effortlessly blocking his attack. He even told Kai not to get cocky just because he was hanging around someone strong like Leo. With their hope fading fast, the three could only watch as Mono turned to leave. But not before delivering his final warning to Leo. "Stick around these weaklings, and it'll only cause you trouble," he said. "Guys like this think they can challenge the strong just because you're with them. That messes up the hierarchy here, and I won't let that happen." A little while later, we see poor Peter nervously asking the others if Mono meant what he said. Could he really hurt them freely inside the academy? Leo sighed and admitted the harsh truth. That's just how this academy works. The strong crush the weak, and the army allows it. They want to force the weak ones to join them, to fight in their future wars. Kai added, "Yeah, once someone officially joins the military, they're under its protection. No one can touch them then, but when that war comes, their lives will still be on the line." Feeling guilty, Kai turned to Leo. "Maybe you should stay away from us for now," he said quietly. But Leo only shook his head, refusing. "You really planning to give up this easily?" he asked, looking Kai straight in the eyes. Kai tried to explain. He knew Leo was a good person who just wanted to help them, but sticking around him would only drag them into more trouble with the bullies. Leo immediately cut him off, insisting, "I'll protect you both myself. There's no reason to be scared." But Kai had to push back harder this time. "If you stay away from us," he said firmly, "we won't need protecting in the first place." Peter joined in, supporting Kai's words. "He's right, it's for the best," he said, turning to Leo with an apologetic look. "I'm sorry, but you should keep your distance for now." Leo's frustration boiled over. "Enough," he said sharply. "No more words." Without another glance, he turned on his heel and walked away, leaving them exactly as they had asked, alone. Peter glanced at Kai, worried. "I think we really upset him this time." Kai shook his head. "We're just looking out for him, that's all." From behind a nearby wall, Riley was watching the entire scene unfold, a smug grin spreading across his face. Meanwhile, Leo was having a different kind of conversation, one with himself. "They've always seen me as useless," he muttered. Then another voice, his own, answered back. "Shut up. They don't know anything about you." It was clear now, my friend. Leo was battling a fractured part of himself, a side of him only he could hear. "I don't care what they think," he told himself angrily. "I'll do whatever I want, even if it takes time." Back with our other two heroes, life wasn't getting any easier. This time, they were the ones getting beaten up by Riley himself. Riley sneered down at them. "Pathetic. Fighting back won't change anything. You should have handed over your points from the start." He leaned closer, his tone dripping with arrogance. "Low-level trash like you shouldn't waste the time of someone important like me. Next time you see me," he smirked, "just give me everything you've got. After all, it's not like you losers have anything worth keeping." Kai felt a heavy sadness weighing on him, realizing that nothing had changed since he came to the academy. He had hoped for a fresh start, a better life, but he had been wrong. Peter leaned closer, whispering, "I think I know how we can at least avoid trouble for now. From here on, we'll only transfer small amounts of points from our bank accounts to our wristbands each time. That way, even if they rob us, they won't take much." Just then, Kai's system popped up with a new notification. "New side quest unlocked. Defeat Riley." Kai sighed, his heart sinking even further. "There's no way I can pull that off right now," he muttered to himself. The system added another note, "Optional quest. Reward will be exceptional due to difficulty level." Kai shook his head in frustration. At least it wasn't mandatory, but it didn't change how impossible it felt. And as if things weren't bad enough, another message appeared seconds later. Stats reduced by 50% under sunlight exposure. Later that night, the three of them finally made it back to their dorm room. But when they stepped inside, they froze. Leo looked terrible, his clothes torn, and his face carried fresh bruises as if he'd just come out of a fight. Still, he forced a smile, acting as if nothing was wrong. "I've been waiting for you guys for a while now," he said casually. Kai and Peter exchanged awkward glances, both deciding to lie. No fights, Kai said quickly. We just stayed out a bit after dinner to help with digestion. Leo chuckled lightly. Heh, next time you're going for a late-night snack, take me with you. Peter leaned toward Kai, whispering nervously, should we tell him what really happened? Before Kai could respond, his stomach betrayed him with a loud growl, echoing through the quiet room. Leo stared at them for a moment, clearly confused. Weren't you two eating just a while ago? Kai scrambled for an excuse. We did, but the food was overpriced and, well, the portions were tiny. Leo smirked and shook his head. Without another word, he transferred a few extra points to both of them. Go get yourselves something proper to eat, he said with a faint grin, trying to lighten the mood. Kai froze for a second when he saw Leo had just transferred him 10 whole points at once. His guilt kicked in immediately. That's too much, Kai muttered. I can't just take all of this from you. But Leo waved him off with a half smile. Don't argue. Think of it as my apology. I should have handled what happened today better instead of sulking about it. With Leo insisting, Kai and Peter eventually gave in and accepted the points. They thanked him sincerely before heading out to grab some food. On their way, they ran into the two bullies who usually hung around with the blonde guy. The pair were huddled together, whispering nervously about how much pressure Riley had been putting on them lately. Apparently, Riley demanded 50 points every week, claiming it was protection money to keep Mono from turning them into punching bags. Meanwhile, Kai's system chimed in with a new task: defeat any enemy. Kai instantly thought of the two in front of him, but common sense told him not to do anything reckless. They'd definitely run crying to Riley if they knew it was him. A grin slowly crept onto his face as an idea formed. A disguise. If they don't recognize me, it won't come back to bite me later, he thought. Moments later, Kai appeared in the shadows behind the black-haired bully. The guy stiffened suddenly, feeling a chilling presence and a strange thirst for blood creeping up his spine. Who's there? The bully called out, his voice shaky. He tried to laugh it off, turning his head slightly. Very funny. Quit acting like some creepy ghost. Still no reply. A bead of sweat rolled down his temple. I'm imagining things, he whispered to himself, turning away, only to freeze mid-motion as dread washed over him. Man, I should have stayed in bed tonight. Why the hell did I listen to that idiot friend of mine? Before Kai could even make his move, the black-haired bully's fear got the better of him. He straight up fainted on the spot, dropping like a sack of potatoes. Kai blinked, staring down at him with a blank face. Well, that was easy, he muttered. Guess I'll have to go find his friend now. Luckily for him, the blue-haired guy's friend is the one who finds him and angrily shouts, asking who he is, what he's doing there, and why he attacked his cowardly buddy, the black-haired guy. Before our protagonist can even answer, Blue lunges at him, but Kai dodges the strike with ease and immediately activates his scan skill. The system pops up, revealing that Blue can control the wind element, and with 15 health points, he's at least a level 3. Kai's brief distraction with the system only fuels Blue's anger, making him attack even more relentlessly, shouting for him to stop acting creepy and silent like some wannabe villain. Although Kai evades every blow, he notices that Blue's speed is increasing, realizing that his opponent is channeling wind energy to boost his movements. With a mocking smirk, Blue declares that no matter how well Kai hides his face, he'll recognize him, probably just another weakling he'd bullied before and stolen points from. According to Blue, that stupid mask won't save him. Once he's beaten, he'll rip it off and make him pay double next time. He even suggests Kai take off the mask now and apologize, promising he might let him off easy. But Kai ignores every word, thinking to himself that his analysis is clear: Blue's defense is weak. This time, Kai surges forward head-on, determined to finish the fight in one strike. As he closes in, Blue launches a flurry of razor-sharp wind blades, aiming to cut him down before he gets close. But Kai doesn't back off. Instead, he dives straight through the swirling blades, his body braced to take the hits, eyes locked on his target, ready to end this in a single blow. The reason Kai is doing all of this, as we said before, is because he knows Blue is faster than him. That means his only option right now is to risk his own body just to land a proper hit. When Kai's first attack on Blue fails, he quickly switches to his backup plan, using his own blood to blind his opponent. With a swift move, he flicks blood straight into Blue's eyes, cutting off his vision. Seizing the opening, Kai throws a punch with his other hand, but Blue smirks and says he'll block it with ease. Unfortunately for him, Kai's punch was just a feint. His real target was much lower. With a perfectly timed kick straight to Blue's vulnerable spot, Kai leaves him collapsing on the ground, losing his consciousness, honor, and dignity all at once, my friend. Right after, the the system pops up to inform Kai that he's earned 50 experience points. With his total XP now over 100, the system asks if he wants to level up. Naturally, Kai accepts, even though he's a bit disappointed that there are no bonus rewards this time. But this level-up process feels strange and brutal. The system suddenly begins draining his blood, making Kai scream in agony as his entire body feels like it's being torn apart. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the academy, Lily has just finished shopping, but as she's leaving the store, she suddenly hears loud screams echoing in the distance. She freezes for a moment, unsure, then decides to cautiously follow the sound. Back with our protagonist, the system informs Kai that his health has increased from 10 to 15 points, leaving him stunned. It explains that he has evolved into a half-blood, no longer fully human. This evolution grants him a new skill, Blood Blade, allowing him to manipulate his own blood into a razor-sharp weapon, capable of striking enemies from up to 5 meters away. While Kai was still thinking to himself that this new skill was actually amazing, he suddenly felt his hunger growing unbearable. At the same time, the system itself seemed almost desperate, warning him that it couldn't suppress his bloodlust anymore. It told him clearly, until you consume human blood, your health will continue to drop until you die. With his hunger worsening and his transformation into a half-blood taking over, Kai's gaze slowly shifted toward the unconscious blue-haired guy, as if he were just a delicious meal waiting to be devoured. Kai walked closer, grabbed Blue by the collar, and muttered to himself that he'd just take a small amount of blood, enough to survive, without actually harming him. Unfortunately, that's when the clueless Layla arrived at the scene. She glanced at them, completely misunderstanding what was happening. In her head, it looked like Kai was just some weirdo into weird colorful stuff, and she thought, wow, I didn't expect this loser to be not only weak, but a total freak too. Seconds later, Kai snapped out of it, terrified of what he was about to do. What the hell am I doing? He muttered in panic, stumbling backward. The thought of hurting humans, just to survive, horrified him. Determined not to lose control again, Kai decided he needed to find blood elsewhere, somewhere safe, where no human would get hurt. Without a second thought, he took off running toward the school infirmary, hoping there might be blood bags stored there. From a distance, Layla stared after him, confused, wondering what on earth was wrong with that weird kid Kai. But curiosity always gets people killed in horror movies, my friend. Because instead of leaving him alone, Layla started following him at full speed, desperate to see what he was hiding. Meanwhile, Kai's health points were dropping dangerously fast, forcing him to do something disgusting. He bit into his own arm and drank his own blood, just to stay on his feet. Moments later, he finally reached the school hospital, barely holding himself together, while Layla kept watching from afar, wondering if maybe he was just injured and looking for a nurse. When Layla peeked inside the infirmary, she saw Kai frantically searching through every cabinet and drawer. His movements were desperate, his face twisted in frustration. There wasn't a single blood bag in sight. The system's alarms were going crazy, flashing non-stop warnings that his body was seconds away from total collapse. Just as Kai's legs gave out beneath him, Layla, the unexpected hero of the moment, rushed in and caught him before he hit the ground. She tried to ask if he needed help, thinking maybe he was just severely ill. His temperature was burning hot, almost unnatural. But the only thing Kai could whisper was a shaky, guilty "I'm sorry," as he instinctively drew closer to her. He told her not to get so close to his neck if she didn't want to get hurt, but it was too late. Moments later, Kai lost control completely and sank his fangs into her, drinking deeply from her blood. The world around him blurred until, at last, his hunger was gone and his mind cleared. But when his vision returned, he froze. Layla was unconscious, pale, lying limp in his arms. He stared at her in horror, realizing he'd taken far more than he intended, like a starving animal who'd just snapped. The system calmly notified him that his hunger had been fully satisfied and his body was stable again, but Kai felt anything but calm. Panicked, he checked her breathing, sighing in relief when he felt it was still steady. Without wasting a second, he laid her on the infirmary bed and sprinted out the door, shouting desperately for a doctor to come right now. Time passed, and by the next morning, Layla slowly opened her eyes, only to find herself being looked after by the school nurse, Haley. Haley smiled softly and reassured her, "Don't worry, dear. You've just got a bit of anemia. A few treatments, and you'll feel even better than before." Confused, Layla asked if that meant she'd actually fainted. Haley nodded and said that yes, she had passed out, but she shouldn't worry, because her boyfriend had carried her here himself. Layla's face turned bright red, and she quickly blurted out that Kai was just a classmate, nothing more. But the nurse only gave her a knowing look, clearly not believing a word, though she played along with Layla's insistence. Layla slowly started recalling the last thing that had happened before she lost consciousness, the moment Kai bit her. She muttered to herself that, ever since that instant, everything had gone blank. And then the thought struck her like lightning. Was Kai a vampire? She didn't know why, but the guess felt way too accurate. At the same time, Kai was lying in his bed, wide awake, completely unable to sleep. His mind kept replaying last night's events, and the worst part wasn't just the guilt, it was the truth he couldn't ignore. Drinking her blood hadn't only satisfied his hunger, it had made him stronger. The system's notifications echoed in his mind. Plus 50 experience points. Plus 1 strength. Plus 1 speed. Kai stared blankly at the ceiling, muttering to himself that he had no idea how he was supposed to find more blood from now on. But one thing was certain, he probably couldn't survive without it anymore. The taste had been overwhelming, intoxicating in a way that left him craving more. For a split second, a crazy idea crossed his mind. What if I just paid Layla for it? But then he shook his head. Not only would that be insanely awkward, but he was completely broke anyway. No money, no deal. His real problem was that Layla might report what happened to the teachers. If that happened, he'd be finished. So he had to prepare himself, ready to accuse her of lying if things went south. The next day, the first class ended, and Mr. Adele, their instructor, stood at the front and announced that next week, combat training would officially begin. Leo tilted his head, confused, and asked his friends what kind of training that even meant. Peter shrugged and replied that it probably just meant fighting practice, but without using abilities. While they were chatting, Kai's eyes drifted toward the cafeteria food trays, and his stomach growled loudly again. Embarrassed, he excused himself from the group. Leo watched him leave and muttered that maybe Kai should go get checked out by the infirmary. No one gets hungry that often unless something's seriously wrong. As they waved goodbye for now, Layla could be seen from a distance, quietly observing Kai, suspicion in her eyes. Meanwhile, Kai walked away thinking to himself that last night, he'd searched the wrong place for blood. If this school stocked blood bags, they'd definitely be stored in a cold, locked storage room, not out in the open like he'd thought. While Kai was lost in thought, trying to figure out where the academy might store blood safely, Layla suddenly grabbed him by the collar and hissed in his ear, "Don't even think about resisting, or I'll make sure you regret it." She dragged him aside, her face flushed with anger, and snapped, "What the hell did you do to me last night?" Kai blinked, trying to act clueless. Do I even know you?" he said with the dumbest expression he could muster. Layla's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Don't play dumb with me. You hurt me badly, and you're not walking away from this without an explanation." Kai sighed and scratched the back of his neck, still trying to bluff his way out. "Look, I was feeling dizzy. I don't really remember much." That only made her angrier. She jabbed a finger into his chest and shouted, "You drained so much of my blood, there's no way you weren't conscious while doing it." Cornered, Kai finally admitted in a low voice, "Fine, yeah, I did it. But I'm not telling you why. My reasons are personal." Layla folded her arms, glaring at him with a deadly seriousness. "That's not good enough. If you don't tell me why, I'll make sure everyone in the academy hears about what you did." Then, in a dramatic twist that made Kai's brain freeze on the spot, Layla's expression softened into wide, pleading cat eyes as she said, "But I'll keep your secret if you do one thing for me. Turn me into a vampire just like you." Kai stared at her, utterly dumbfounded. I'm sorry, what did you just say?" Layla repeated it without hesitation, her voice brimming with excitement. "Make me a vampire. I've always dreamed of becoming one." Kai's thoughts scrambled like a broken record. Is this girl serious? Is she insane? He stammered, "Wait, you're not joking?" Layla shook her head enthusiastically. "Not at all. My dad's a famous author who writes vampire novels. I grew up listening to his stories, and ever since then, I've always wanted to be one of you." Kai froze for a second, staring at Layla as if she just asked him to jump off a cliff. Finally, he let out a heavy sigh and said, "All right, brace yourself for what I'm about to tell you." He looked her dead in the eye and admitted, "I'm not a real vampire. I only got this ability because of a skill book." Layla's eyes went wide, the shock hitting her like a truck. She almost burst into tears on the spot. After all, everyone in the world knew you could only ever have one ability, and his story just shattered everything she thought she knew. Her voice trembled as she asked, "Then why are you trying so hard to hide your power if it's just normal?" Kai shook his head firmly. "It's not normal. I need to drink human blood to level up. If the military ever finds out about this, They'll wipe me out on the spot. I'm a threat to humanity. Layla's expression shifted again, her eyes lighting up with renewed excitement as soon as he finished. Wait, if you don't fully understand your ability yet, that means there's a chance you'll eventually gain the power to turn humans into vampires, right? Kai had no argument for that logic, leaving him awkwardly scratching the back of his neck. Layla grinned, stepping closer and giving him an offer she clearly thought was impossible to refuse. Listen, I'll give you all the blood you need, whenever you need it. But you have to promise, if you ever gain the ability to turn people, you'll make me a vampire like you. Kai sighed again, rubbing his temple. Fine, I don't mind agreeing. But if I never get that power, then I'll have tricked you. I don't care, Layla said immediately, her excitement bubbling over. Before Kai could respond, Peter suddenly ran up to them, panting and looking absolutely terrified. Kai blinked, confused, and asked, "Whoa, what happened? Why do you look like you've seen a ghost?" Peter grabbed his arm desperately. "Quick, Kai, you have to come with me now. Leo's in serious danger." He repeated it over and over, nearly tripping over his own words. Without wasting another second, Kai bolted after him, heart pounding in his chest. But when they arrived at the scene, it wasn't Leo who was in danger. It was the group of students lying on the ground, completely beaten to a pulp. Kai's eyes darted toward the blood on the floor, and for a terrifying second, his vampire instinct surged, threatening to take over and expose his secret. But Peter's panicked voice snapped him out of it. "Leo, did you take down all of them by yourself?" Leo looked at them with a cold, emotionless stare and simply said, "Stay away from me. Everything will be fine." Kai blinked in confusion, not sure what to make of that response. "Wait, are you saying that this whole fight happened because of me and Peter?" he asked hesitantly. When Layla saw the blood smeared across Leo's face, she froze for a moment, then nervously suggested, "You should go to the infirmary, you're hurt." But the second Leo shot her and the others a sharp glare, they all fell completely silent. He looked like he was 1 second away from hitting someone. Despite the tension, Peter rushed over and asked in a worried tone, "Leo, where are you going, man?" Leo's reply was as cold as ice. "Somewhere far from you guys, and I don't ever want to see you again, no matter what happens." The three of them walked away quietly to avoid making things worse. As they distanced themselves, Peter explained what had happened. Leo had been about to teach him some hand-to-hand combat moves, but a group of older students showed up and dragged him aside. That's when Peter realized Leo might be in danger and ran to find Kai. From what Peter described, Kai quickly pieced it together. There was some kind of gang targeting Leo. Later, while they were talking, Kai started to tell Peter about his strange arrangement with Layla. But before he could explain, Layla interrupted with a smile and invited Peter to come eat with them. Peter misunderstood completely, his face turning red, and quickly said, I'll leave you two alone then. I don't want to be a third wheel," before walking off in a hurry. Kai stared at Layla in shock and asked, "Why are you acting like this?" Layla's tone softened, unusually gentle this time. "Relax. I just have a few questions for you, that's all," she said, her eyes sincere. "But before I ask anything, I'll give you what you really want first." She tilted her head slightly and whispered, "Let's get you a meal you actually like." Of course, by meal, she meant her blood. A few minutes later, they were in the infirmary, and Layla rolled up her sleeve, saying firmly, "All right, I'm ready. But you better control yourself this time, Kai. I don't plan on passing out again." Kai completely threw Layla off when he asked bluntly, what exactly are you doing?" She blinked, confused, as he continued, "I'm not biting any human. I'll just use a syringe to draw some blood." Layla's face fell in disappointment at his words, but she reluctantly agreed, letting him do it his way. As Kai filled a vial, he told her, "I'm taking a little extra this time, just in case of an emergency." While he was drawing blood, Layla tilted her head and asked, "If you're not even using your ability book, why do you still keep it? You could sell it for a ton of money instead of letting it go to waste." Kai glanced at her and replied, "It's not like I have a choice. The book disappeared. It completely merged with me." Layla froze for a second, stunned. "Wait, you mean the book actually fused with you? I've never even heard of anything like that." She leaned back in her chair, thinking out loud, "This world is full of mysteries, especially the world of originals. Nobody really knows how they even manage to turn their innate abilities into ability books in the first place." Her brain was working overtime, and suddenly her eyes lit up. "If you're a vampire now, then it probably means vampires were originals. Which means," she pointed a finger at him excitedly, "if you level up enough, you'll become a real vampire and finally be able to turn me." Kai sighed heavily, choosing silence over arguing. He just focused on finishing his drink while Layla watched him closely. "So," she asked curiously, leaning toward him, "does it taste good?" He paused for a moment before replying honestly, "Yeah, it's actually really delicious." Layla's face brightened instantly, while Kai was thinking to himself, "At this rate, I don't think I'll ever enjoy normal food again." But then something strange happened. The system popped up, telling him there were no additional stat points gained this time. Kai realized immediately it wasn't just about drinking blood. To grow stronger, he needed blood from different people. His thoughts went dark as he remembered the bullies he had beaten the other night. If I'd just taken their blood, he thought, I'd probably be a beast by now. Layla noticed the mischievous grin creeping across his face and raised an eyebrow. "All right, what are you plotting now?" Kai chuckled lightly and said, "Let's just say I made a game-changing discovery, but I'll only know for sure after I test it." Before she could ask anything else, Kai grabbed her by the wrist and stood up. "Come on, let's go eat something real this time. After that, we're heading straight to the library." While our protagonist was teasing Layla, telling her to watch her sugar levels because her blood was way too sweet, someone was watching them from a distance. But surprisingly, it wasn't Riley. It was Leo. He stood in the shadows, eyes fixed on Kai, and muttered under his breath, "Kai's my friend. I won't let anyone hurt him or trick him." Sitting alone afterward, Leo's inner voice started creeping in. She warned him that Layla might be dangerous for Kai. After all, she was a higher-ranked student, yet was being unusually kind to him. The voice insisted it would be better to keep her away, even if it meant hurting Kai's feelings. But Leo pushed back, saying, "Kai has the right to talk to whoever he wants." Their internal argument started getting louder until someone outside the room heard it. It was Petter. He paused at the door, raising a brow. Who the hell is Leo arguing with? Leo heard him and quickly stepped out of the room. "Oh hey, when did you get back?" "I've been here for a while," Petter replied. "But I heard you talking to someone, so I figured I'd give you space." Leo froze for a second. What? I wasn't talking to anyone." Petter looked at him confused. "I mean, I definitely heard someone." But Leo quickly changed the subject. "Must have been sleep-talking again, that's all." Without waiting for a reply, Leo patted his shoulder and said, "Come on, let's get something to eat. I'm still starving after that last fight." He casually added, "You know, the one where I had to beat down a couple of upperclassmen before lunch." Meanwhile, back on the other side of campus, Kai was saying goodbye to Layla, but something about her tone gave him chills. She smiled and waved gently as she walked away, calling out sweetly, "See you soon, master." Kai stood there, frozen. What did she just call me? Moments later, our protagonist finally returned to the dorm, only to be greeted by the loud cheers of his friends. Turns out, Petter had just managed to activate his ability for the very first time. Kai immediately congratulated him, but Leo's focus was elsewhere, specifically on the clump of muddy energy floating around Petter's sword. "Man, we have to do something about this," Leo said, holding back a laugh. "It looks ridiculous." To help him out, Leo copied Petter's ability and showed him how to properly focus his ki, shaping it more cleanly. By the end of the demonstration, the awkward muddy ball had transformed into a sleek wooden staff, almost like a proper magic wand. "See? Much better," Leo said, grinning. "Now you can carry it around without looking like you just dug it out of a swamp." Kai chuckled, then suddenly shifted the topic. "Leo, you doing okay?" he asked, concern slipping into his tone. Leo gave him a casual nod. "Yeah, I'm fine. Sometimes I just get a little mixed up with the thoughts of whoever I copy abilities from. That's all." Kai wasn't satisfied and opened his mouth to press further, but Petter jumped in with a smirk. "So Kai, what's going on between you and Layla?" Kai froze like a deer in headlights, making Leo burst out laughing. "Wait, seriously?" Leo teased. "You've been here for, what, a couple of days and you already found yourself a girlfriend?" Kai stuttered, trying to deny it, but then an embarrassing mental image flashed in his head. Layla in a maid outfit, calling him Kaikuin in that sweet voice of hers. He shook his head violently, snapping out of it. "She's just a friend, all right. I only asked her for help with spiritual weapon training." Petter raised a brow. "So, you're joining the spiritual weapons group then?" From that, we learned there were two main combat training groups in the academy. Hand-to-hand combat, focused on enhancing physical strength alongside one's ability. Spiritual weapon users, specialized in channeling power into weapons. Petter admitted he planned to join the first group since his stats were still too low. But surprisingly, Leo said, "I'll join that one too. I don't really like using weapons anyway." Petter frowned. Then Kai will end up all alone. Leo just smirked and shrugged. He won't be alone. He'll have his girlfriend Layla with him. Kai groaned, burying his face in his hands. This is going to be a long semester.